well, I also want to thank the organizers, particularly Una, for bringing me in. It's a great event, and I've learned a lot already, and I'm sure I will learn more by the end of the day. So, well, here we're discussing Europe and China. I come from Central Asia, that's the area in between, and it's part of the well, part of the belt. Yeah, so it's this land, the land route connecting China and Europe, and obviously for this belt to succeed, this in between needs to work better, to be better organized, and that would require upgrade of infrastructure, building some new infrastructure, certain standardization of procedures, proper implementation of adopted regimes. And here I would like to refer you to the pretty fresh report done by the Eurasian Development Bank. It is a report on Silk Road transport corridors, and it discusses the prospects and challenges of these land routes, focusing on railway. And actually, interestingly, in terms of physical infrastructure, Poland is the major bottleneck at the moment. For now, Central Asian states, particularly Kazakhstan, make major efforts to become this link, and it's not something new. That has been an aspiration since the actually early 90s when we became independent. And we're investing in infrastructure. We're building railways. We're building roads. We're building dry ports, seaports. Buying special containers for transporting sensitive commodities, but we want to become more than simply a transit zone, yeah, and that would be in line with comprehensive connectivity that Andres was talking about earlier. We want to be, suppliers, we want to be market, we want to be part of the value chains, and so on and so forth. And actually that seems to be a Chinese vision as well. If you remember that main document on Belt and Road, China wants to set up an all-dimensional multi-tied and composite connectivity networks, realize diversified, independent, balanced and sustainable development in these countries. The connectivity projects of the initiative will help align and coordinate the development strategies of the countries along the Belt and Road, tap market potential, promote investment, consumption, create demands, job opportunities, enhance people-to-people and cultural exchanges. So it seems we want it, you want it, China wants it, traditionally there have been two major challenges to us being part of this global market, this connectivity. And one factor, of course, is distance. Yeah? We are inside the continent, landlocked, far away from the major markets. And the second is business environment, pretty poor business environment related to linked to governance issues. And it seems that the Belt and Road Initiative can help us overcome this first obstacle, which is the distance. It's not an easy task, but it seems something that is now becoming more feasible. But we remain with the problem of business environment, business environment and governance, and these issues are more difficult to handle. And here I want to show you. Okay, these are the certain indicators. This is World Bank, worldwide governance indicators, and you can see that. Okay, basically, you see that red is focuses in Central Asia, yeah, and you know that they calculate from minus 2.5 to plus 2.5, yeah, and you see in red we're quite negative, yeah. While European countries actually, there, here you have Eastern Europe, for example, yeah, ECA. So we are, we're in the minus, and there is a variety, of course, there is diversity in Central Asia, And here, well, I chose control of corruption, rule of law, regulatory equality, governance effectiveness, voice and accountability. So you see, once again, it's negative. Yeah, some are slightly better, some are worse. So Kazakhstan overall is a bit better. Yeah, but clearly we have an issue here. And well, it's interesting for me to read on Chinese investments in Europe and the concerns that they've been raising in Europe. My observation is that the biggest scandals that we've seen are in countries that have more problems with governance. Yeah? They have sort of weaker governance, so there is a higher vulnerability. So my worry is that given that we have much weaker governance, yeah? More vulnerability, yeah? This might affect us even worse. Yeah? And well, there was an excellent report by the European think tank network on China, on Chinese investments in Europe, a country level report. And there are a number of concerns that were listed in this report, and some are actually quite relevant or can be relevant for us, yeah, for Central Asia. And these concerns are uncertainty about security-related critical infrastructure, yeah, or some super strategic assets, investment as a source of political, geopolitical influence. You are concerned about divisions in Europe. Potentially, something like that can happen to us. For example, I don't know, upstream, downstream Chinese Central Asian countries. China decides to invest in an upstream country against the will of the downstream country. Yeah, so that can also create certain divisions. And you have regulatory concerns. Yeah, and you have a much better regulatory framework than we do. Yeah, so our starting point is much lower. Compliance with public procurement procedures, for example. So, well, there is also concern about intra-European competition for investment. It can also, kind of be relevant for us. So, so what your concerns can be much greater actually for Central Asia, because once again, governance is considerably weaker, state capacity is low, there is thirst for investments, and there are few alternatives, yeah? Few alternative sources of such financing, investments, and so on. In addition to that, there is a very strong concern about debt dependence, and already Tajikistan, Kyrgyzstan, Turkmenistan are highly indebted to China. There are concerns about environmental standards, there are concerns about migration, so we are underpopulated, China is overpopulated, yeah, so all these people will come, which somewhat irrational, but sort of in popular perception, that's an issue. And there are concerns about the land. I don't know how familiar you are with Central Asian scene, but in 2016 we had well, big for us, considerable protests, and we never have protests because we live so well. But anyways, we have these protests, and they were linked to the land issue, the plan of the government to extend the term of rent to foreigners in kind of, and people thought that, oh, these are Chinese companies coming, and then there will be, some thought that they will poison the land, they will go, yeah, that some were thinking that, oh, they will take it, and, they will take this land forever. So, so there were these protests, but it's not only fears of China, Chinese companies, it's also kind of low trust in your own government, yeah? And this is not a very good combination. And this lack of trust is fueled by very low transparency of projects, of agreements we sign with China. Like, for example, we have this, Kazakhstan has a list of 51 projects. Yeah? So they announced that we will have industrial transfer from China to Kazakhstan, and there is this 51 project that we will be doing that amounts to about $28 billion. So they talk about this 51 project, but they don't give the list of these 51 projects, so you're kind of left to guess. And I don't see much reason behind it. Yeah, why do you want to hide this information? Or if you wanted to keep it secret, why did you announce this 51 project? But anyways, the level of transparency is very low. I understand that in Europe you are also kind of trying to understand what's going on, how, you know, the amount of FDI and so on and so forth. It's not easy here, but here the level of transparency is much higher than what we have in the region. So this combination of bad governance, low transparency, kind of already creates problems for Chinese investments and for joint projects. There are stories of Chinese companies, Chinese investors losing money, and then they cannot actually do anything because there is no rule of law. They go to the court, and then the court, of course, decides in favor of the local guy. So, and that's why there are very few private investments in the region. Yeah, well, the amount of FDI could have been higher if we had better business environment, and obviously real connectivity would be impossible without FDI. Yeah, you cannot just do it with loans and just kind of state-supported projects. So there are problems already, and down the road there might be even bigger problems. I would say it will not be too difficult to imagine how accumulated grievances of people with government, poor governance, might find an outlet in some anti-Chinese kind of sentiment, yeah? Can be used by certain political forces, yeah, because it would be an easy something. Well, nationalist sentiments in general are very easy kind of to use, to mobilize people. So, plus on a bigger scale, if you kind of try to project into the future and think that, okay, if BRI is successful, that will create a pretty dynamic situation. There will be various economic, political, social processes created directly or indirectly by BRI, and that might unsettle the systems and orders and so on. So maybe we can, you know, start speculating about that too, because connectivity is a powerful force for change in general. Yeah, and not everything can be predicted, but anyhow. So fast or slow change is coming, and I would argue that all parties would be better off if they start addressing these governance challenges now. Yeah, by all parties I mean Chinese, Central Asian, and I would add the Europeans in the mix. And the EU already stated that well, any scheme connecting Europe and Asia should adhere to a number of principles, including market rules, international procurement standards, and should complement existing networks and policies. And Federica Mogherini in March 2018 at the meeting also stated that the EU understands that Central Asian countries want to be more than just transit countries, that they hope that these big infrastructure projects will bring sustainable development, support trade within the region, not only through the region, and that the EU is ready to support these demands, and that, well, she will present in October a new strategy on connectivity in Europe and Eurasia. So, and this strategy, I haven't seen the strategy, I don't know if anybody here has seen the draft, but theoretically it should highlight the key principles like transparency, social standards, environmental standards, and things like that. Yes, I'm finishing. So, and with this strategy, EU is, wants to give partners, including Central Asian countries, more than one choice. It should help them avoid the debt trap and the trap of poor quality projects. Yeah. So, so that's a very kind of important, I think, important initiative, and I do hope that both Central Asian states and China will understand the importance of this effort, and somehow we can create better, more comprehensive connectivity, more quality connectivity in the region, in big Eurasia. Thank you.